Hello, hello, good evening, everyone. Hello, good evening, everyone. It's another beautiful evening, another beautiful session of Safe to Speak, coming to you live from Abuja, the Nigerian capital. My name is Chris Uloko, and I am the founder of Safe to Speak. And at Safe to Speak, we open doors to honest conversations. Tonight, we are having a very, very important conversation, and this is so important because healing, recovery, for you to be able to recover from a very bad and negative situation as far as abuse is concerned, it's a very serious matter and it's very important. This issue is so important that it's at the core of Safe to Speak activities. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this all important session. And it's my hope and my belief that after this session, we would have learned a whole lot, and a lot of us will be making very critical decisions in our lives. So, I'd like you to stay with us. Stay with us at this time. It's going to be very interesting, and you would never regret being with us. So please, as I will always do, due to sometimes we have network issues, if you are experiencing if you see that you cannot hear me or something is not right, please in the comment section you do let me know, so that our technical team will quickly look into that and resolve it. So yesterday we looked at why people choose to remain in an abusive relationship. You are in a relationship and the relationship is abusive. You are being abused mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and so on and so forth. And yet you choose to remain in that relationship. Why did you make that decision? Why you can't just walk out of a relationship that is abusive, a relationship that is basically affecting your mental health, causing your mental health to deteriorate, a relationship that is basically making you feel less of yourself, affecting your confidence, affecting your self-worth and all of that. Why would you choose to remain in such a relationship? We looked at all of these issues yesterday, and today, ladies and gentlemen, is yet another very interesting conversation, because here at Safe to Speak, we don't just want to talk about issues. We want to be able to talk about issues, and we should look at solutions, because Safe to Speak, it's very particular about healing, about restoration. So that's what we want to look at tonight. Now, tonight's topic is simple. They broke your confidence. Now what? Somebody broke your confidence. Now what? You are in an abusive relationship, and then at this time your confidence is being abused. Your confidence, your morale, your self-worth, has been completely torn apart. Sorry, let me just try to fix something. Okay, all right. Now you are in an abusive relationship, and then your self-confidence, your self-worth has been completely messed up, and and broken down. So what next? What should you do? How do you recover from that? That's what we want to look at tonight. So we want to look at specifically rebuilding after emotional abuse. After you have been abused, assaulted emotionally, how do you regain yourself? Because one thing abusive relationship does, it makes you lose yourself. So if you have lost yourself, how do you move on? How do you recover? How do you heal? So we're looking at rebuilding. And oftentimes, in general terms, anytime anybody needs to rebuild, it's not always easy. Rebuilding is not always easy. It's easier to build. If you want to look at a building, you want to look at construction, you want to build a house, sometimes it's even much better you build a new house than to say an existing house, you want to rebuild it. Sometimes it will require you to pull that building down. It will require you to pull the house down. If you are not pulling the house down completely in order to rebuild, sometimes it requires you to take off the roof. It requires you to take off the windows. It requires you to take off or take out component parts of the building and bring a new one to replace. So, and then most times people look at it, rebuilding sometimes is costlier. It's very costly. It's difficult to rebuild. So tonight, you have been completely messed up. Relationship completely messed up. Your life completely messed up. How do you rebuild? How do you rebuild? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at how you rebuild. How do you rebuild after emotional abuse? After you've lost your self-worth and you are no longer yourself, you are no longer the person you used to be. So how do you recover from that? That's what we want to look at tonight. Because one of the greatest tragedies of emotional abuse is that it doesn't just hurt you. It doesn't just hurt you. It makes you lose your self-worth. It makes you lose yourself. It's so bad that you feel you can no longer cope again. A lot of persons have paid the ultimate price because they feel they can no longer recover from an abusive relationship. They feel they can no longer recover from a relationship that messed up their life, that broke their life apart. A lot of persons may even choose to end it up. We've seen stories, we've seen persons who, after a messed up relationship, they feel they can no longer cope with life anymore. They feel they are completely just useless, worthless. Nobody will want them anymore. And there's nothing else to do in this life. And then you see them begin to think of hurting themselves and all of that. Unfortunately, we've seen this happen time and time again in this life. I've seen it myself. If you are in that kind of situation, come on, there is hope for you. That's why you've got to be part of this conversation tonight. This is very serious. Either yourself or anyone around you whom you feel has a messed up relationship and they feel they can no longer recover again. Some are not even willing to forgive themselves for being so stupid, so to say, in a relationship, or for being so careless. Some will even refuse to forgive themselves. They will never forgive themselves. They won't give themselves another chance. So tonight's conversation, it's very serious. So if you are watching me now and you feel you can no longer forgive yourself, you feel you can no longer, there's no reason for you to leave, there's no reason for you to give yourself another chance, come on, stay with me tonight. I believe that you would find yourself during the course of this conversation, and you know that you begin to realize that you are not worthless. You are very important. You are very important. You are important to your family. You are important to your friends. You are important to us. You are important to me. You are important to Safe to Speak. And more importantly, you are important to God. The Bible says there is hope for a tree, even if it be cut down. Even if you cut it down, the tree still has hope. It can still sprout again. It can still grow again. So you don't have to lose yourself. Sorry, just at the beginning of this conversation, I'm already jumping to the last part of the conversation, which is healing. That's to show you how passionate I am. concerning your well-being, how passionate I am concerning your recovery tonight. And it's my faith and my belief that while you hear these words, God is going to give you back yourself. God is going to strengthen you. You begin to recover yourself. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you again to this session. Please, as we often do, I'd like you to tell me where you are watching from. I'd like to know. As Safe to Speak, we try to keep data, we try to keep track of all our viewers from what part of the world you're watching me right now. Please, in the comment section, drop your comment. Let us know where you're watching us from. All right. At John Doris, you said, thank you, sir, for reminding me that I am an asset. Absolutely, you are an asset. No one should make you feel less of yourself. No one should make you feel less of yourself. You are very important. You are important to yourself. You are important to your family. You are important to your friends. You are important to all those that care about you. And you are very important to God. God still needs you. Okay, at John Doris, you said you are watching from Abuja, Nigeria. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Fortunately, we are in the same city. I'd like to hear from others. Let me know where you are actually watching from. So tonight, how do you rebuild yourself? How do you rebuild yourself? You know, from a broken relationship. How do you recover yourself? Okay, at Evangelist. Okay, you said you're watching from Kenya. Thank you for joining us at this time. Thank you for joining us at this time. Please, everyone joining us, let us know where you are watching us from. That's very important that's very important to us, because we try to keep data of who is watching us and from what country. Yesterday we have so many persons watching. I think someone joined us from Saudi Arabia, from different countries. So that's how wonderful what we are doing here is, because a lot of persons need to hear this message. A lot of persons need to hear this word, and that's why I keep encouraging every one of you to share this page. If you have not subscribed, subscribe. Follow Safe to Speak. Subscribe and share. Your friends, your families need to see this. By sharing, you might be saving someone who may be choosing to just end it all. Someone who may be deciding that there's no way they can recover. There's no way they can't give themselves another chance. Nobody would want them. Nobody would need them. So you might just be saving someone. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as we progress tonight, I want you to stay connected. Don't go anywhere, because it's going to be very interesting, super interesting. All right, at Godwin Esther, you said you are watching from Edo State. Wow, from Opila, Edo State. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I believe our discussion tonight is going to be very interesting. As I will always say, I'd like every session to be interactive. So kindly let us know what your thoughts are concerning this topic. If you have a question to ask, you can actually ask your questions. Just drop it in the comment section. At Kenny J Praise, you said you are watching from Ghana. Thank you, Kenny, for joining us. Kenny, please share this page. Your friends, your family need to get involved in this conversation. You might just be saving someone. So I want to ask a question. What is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse. Well, when we talk about physical abuse, everybody knows anything physical, it means it's physical. You could see it with your eyes. But emotional abuse, sometimes most times you can't even see it with your eyes. You might see the facial expression of the person that something is wrong, only if you are able to to observe and decode that. But most times you don't even know. Emotional abuse is abstract. So I want to ask you tonight, what is emotional abuse? I'd like somebody to drop a comment in the comment sections. Tell us what an emotional abuse is, because emotional abuse is at the center of our conversation tonight. Because for every abuse, be it physical, be it psychological, be it emotional, as the case may be, whatever nomenclature, whatever name you want to call it, the goal of every abuse and every abuser is to simply make you feel less of yourself, make you lose yourself. You lose yourself, you lose your self-worth, you lose your identity. A once vibrant lady, a once vibrant guy may begin to feel less of them or less of themselves. A once vibrant lady becomes unproductive. A once beautiful lady would stop taking good care of herself. A once healthy lady, a once healthy guy would stop taking care of themselves, and then health will begin to deteriorate. You know, they begin to look like they become a shadow of themselves. That's ultimately what an abuse does. So be it physical, be it emotional, and so on and so forth. So tonight's conversation is simple. Whichever form of abuse that has been meted out to you, how do you recover yourself? How do you heal? That's the conversation tonight. And I asked the question, well, what is emotional abuse? Well, in any case, I think I've answered part of it. Here I have a list of them. In order to save time, I'll just go through it one after the other very, very briefly. Constant criticism. When you are in a relationship and then there's this constant criticism, insults and humiliation, manipulation, gaslighting. We looked at gaslighting yesterday. We look at guilt tripping, when somebody tries to manipulate you to tell you, after all I have done, how can you leave me like that after everything I've done for you? You know, they trap you in that kind of situation. Or somebody decides to blackmail you to tell you that if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. And of course, you being a good person, you don't want that person to kill. You don't want anybody to hurt themselves. So what do? You are now trapped. So, sorry. So, ladies and gentlemen, we looked at all of this. We looked at gaslighting, guilt tripping, controlling behavior, emotional neglect. When you are neglected emotionally, you are basically abandoned and all of that. So these are different forms of emotional abuse. So let me take your comment. Okay, at Kenny J Praise, you said you are watching from Ghana. At Godwin Esther, you said emotional abuse is a pattern of behavior where one person tries to control, intimidate, or diminish another person's self-worth and mental being. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. Emotional abuse is a pattern. Very interesting. I like that word, pattern. When something is repeated constantly, it becomes a pattern. It becomes a pattern. And when something is a pattern, it becomes a norm. So if you are in that kind of relationship that it's the abuse that is being meted to you is not just an incident. You know, when something happened once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, you might say, maybe at different occasions, you might say, okay, maybe it's just an incident. It's just an incident. Okay, anybody can overreact and all of that. But when it gets to an extent that is becoming a pattern, where it is becoming a pattern where someone tries to control, intimidate, and constantly harass you and subject you to inhumane treatment, that's abuse. It makes you, at the end of the day, it makes you to lose yourself. to lose your self-worth and all of that. Okay, at John Doris, you said emotional abuse is a behavior used to manipulate, intimidate, or undermine another person's emotional well-being and sense of worth and sense of self-worth. Beautifully said. So I love it that we are making this session today very interactive. So emotional abuse is a behavior. It's a behavior. You say it's a behavior or it's a pattern used to manipulate. So I mentioned manipulation, where someone constantly tends to manipulate you in order to subject you into a particular kind of lifestyle, into a particular kind of situation where you begin to lose yourself, you begin to feel less of yourself. So this is very serious. So tonight's conversation, if all of this is happening, you can see that all of these things is happening in your life. How do you recover from it? How do you heal? How do you heal? I said earlier that a lot of persons choose to just end it, or they feel they can't give themselves another chance. Nobody's going to want them. Nobody would need them. Their life is completely messed up. You might say, my life is completely messed up. Nobody wants me. Nobody needs me. I am completely nothing. And all of that. If you are in that kind of situation, come on, there is hope for you. The Bible says there's hope even for a tree. When it's cut down, it can still sprout again. How much more you, the beloved of God? You are a beloved of God. God loves you. And for that purpose, Jesus was made manifest in order to bring recovery to you. This is very serious. Now, unfortunately, what we are discussing now is not restricted to relationship alone. Perhaps at work, you have a boss who constantly criticize you, constantly insult you and humiliate you and make you feel less of yourself. How do you heal from that? How do you recover from that? Because in that kind of situation, you might begin to make so many mistakes. You might begin to make so many mistakes. You might begin to it might even lead to unproductivity. You, a once vibrant employee, begins to lose your mind, begins to lose your concentration, your focus, and all of that. So how do you recover? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Safe to Speak, and tonight we are having an honest conversation. And the conversation is centered on healing. How do you heal? How do you recover after an abuse? How do you heal? How do you recover after an abuse? Now, as we make progress in this conversation, I want us to look at the damage emotional abuse leaves behind. What are the damages emotional abuse leave behind? Now, I'd like your input on this. What are the damages emotional abuse leaves behind? When you have been abused to such an extent that you know that you are no longer yourself. You no longer take care of yourself. A once beautiful lady choose not to take care of herself, choose not to look after herself anymore. She just left herself because, according to her, she already felt, I've lost myself. Well, what else? Why am I going to take care of myself? Who is going to even look at me and all of that? So I want to ask you, what damages does emotional abuse leave behind? I know these are things we've talked about. So for want of time, I still expect your comments to come in. So, but for want of time, I'll go straight to it. Number one is low self-esteem. I've mentioned that time and time again. Self-doubt. You begin to doubt yourself. And then fear of speaking up. Yesterday, we talked about the fear of a lot are afraid to speak up. They are in an abusive relationship, but they can't speak up. They can't speak up. They can't dare to speak up. And I did say something that one thing an abuser always does is to instill fear on you so that you are unable to speak up. You are unable to seek help. And you see someone who is seriously being abused, not able to speak up. In fact, if somebody wants to speak up on their behalf, they tend to protect the abuser because they are afraid, because of the kind of fear over time that the abuser have basically instilled on them. So fear of speaking up is there. The damages that emotional abuse leaves behind. Fear of speaking up, anxiety, depression, loss of identity, feeling unworthy. Of course, you begin to feel unworthy. You begin to feel, well, I beg, I'm tired of this life. Unfortunately, some persons may even decide to just end it all, that there's no need to be in this world anymore. But that's not for you. That's not for any member of your family, because as we engage in this conversation and as we share this, more and more persons are going to see this, and they would realize that there's possibility for healing. There's possibility for recovery. All right? So many, and you wouldn't blame victims of abuse. You wouldn't blame them, because most times the abuse makes them lose themselves. They completely lose themselves. So it's my prayer tonight for everyone that will come across the session, God would give them grace for recovery, and they will realize that they are worth much more than what anybody has so far thought less of. They are much worthy than any other person. So it's my prayer tonight that this is going to happen for you and to every one of your loved ones. All right. So we'll make progress. Now, I did say something that when you are emotionally abused in a relationship, and let's say, for example, you want to heal, you want to recover. I did say something earlier on at the beginning of the session that if you have a building whose roof is faulty, ceiling is faulty, windows are faulty, a building, and you want to rebuild, what do? You can pull that structure down and start all over again. Yes, it's difficult, but it's very possible. That's one aspect. Another aspect is you can decide to take off the roof and bring in a new roof. You can decide to take out a component of the building and replace it. So rebuilding is possible. Rebuilding after an abuse, after an abusive relationship, is very, very possible. And now, shortly, we'll be looking at how you would, the most important part of this conversation, how you actually rebuild. How you can actually rebuild. How you can actually recover yourself, regain your self-worth. Have you met with a victim of abuse before? Or you have been abused before? If you have met with a victim, you would see them, they become, perhaps you know them before the abuse. They become completely a shadow of themselves. You see them, they are so lonely, they are so isolated, they don't want to participate in any activities. They become unproductive. It's a very, very terrible state to be. And at that state, if recovery and healing doesn't happen right on time, they begin to develop mental health issues. And when they start to drift into mental health issues, it becomes worse. Their health can then be affected. In fact, most times, it's at that stage a lot of persons would decide that they can no longer live again. There's nothing that can come out of their lives anymore. And there is no possibility for recovery. It's my prayer that you watching me, if you are in that kind of situation, it's my prayer that you would recover. And it begins tonight. Now, I want to go straight to it. How do you rebuild? Number one, I mentioned this in our session yesterday. How to rebuild? Number one, you've got to speak up. Do not believe the lie and the intimidation from the abuser. You've got to speak up. That's the first step. You've got to speak up. One thing that the most abusers, all of them, one thing they often want to ensure, they would ensure that they control you to such an extent that you can't speak to anyone. They may even threaten you. They may even threaten you that if they get to know that you spoke to anyone, they will do this and this and this and this to you. And the victims would believe that. There's a famous statement by a senator from Nigeria. He said something. He said, if you speak up, you die. If you don't speak up, you die. I rather speak up so that I die, but at least I know I've spoken up. Now that's on a lighter note. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to speak up. If you know anyone who is being abused, you've got to encourage them that they don't have to be silent. If it means speaking up discreetly at first, but you've got to speak up to the right person. You've got to speak up to the right person, or you've got to reach out to the right platform that is able to guide you and counsel you on the way to go. And on this note, I'm going to look at a worst case scenario. Let's say you're in an abusive relationship, and then at some point you decide that, oh, in this place, there's nothing there for me anymore. In this place, there's nothing there for me anymore. I've got to leave. And you walk out of the relationship, and the relationship broke down. There are a lot of persons that would say, I can no longer go into any relationship. All men are like that. All women are like that. I can no longer put myself in that kind of situation again. And because of their previous experience, they choose not to give themselves another chance. It's a terrible state to be, and I very much understand. But if you feel that way, you've got to speak up. You've got to seek help from someone. Most importantly, you've got to heal. And part of the healing process is for you to speak up, is for you to recover, is for you to give yourself another chance, for you to give yourself another opportunity to life. You've got to live again. And speaking up ensures that you find your voice. You have to talk to trusted person. You have to seek support. That's number one. Number two, stop believing the lies. I mentioned it earlier. Stop believing the lies. Because one thing the abuser does is to make sure that it mentally makes you a nobody. The abuser makes you stop believing in yourself, that you can do anything or that you can amount to anything. So you've got to stop believing those lies, because there is hope for you. I said earlier that even the Bible says that there's hope for a tree. If it be cut down, it can still sprout again, it can still grow again. So much less you can still live again. You can still live your life. You can still amount to something. You can still recover. So, number one, you speak up. Number two, you stop believing the lies. You stop believing the lies. Number three, reconnect with yourself. Go back to your old self before the abuse. And think of how you were before the abuse. Oh, I was once this beautiful person, or this handsome guy, this beautiful lady. I was once doing well. I was once a staff of this company. I was once this. I was once a vibrant singer. I was once active in the church. I was once active in this community. So if I can do that then before the abuse, what's stopping me from connecting with that myself that was once vibrant? So you need to think of the past, when you were actually doing well before the abuse, and reconnect with yourself. Once you do that, you begin to find yourself. Before you realize, come on, you are shooting for the skies. All right? And at that point, once you find yourself, it means, in fact, once you start to speak up, your healing has begun. That's the beginning of your healing. Okay, I think we are back. All right, we seem to be having some network issues. I do apologize. Sometimes these things are beyond our control, but not worry. Very soon we are going to be investing a lot in our system so that we have a very optimized system that will be devoid of network interruptions. So thank you for staying with us tonight, and sorry for the delays, the break in transmission, and we hope that we will do better next time. So but meanwhile, we will just go to the last part of the conclusion, the last part of this conversation tonight. So tonight we are talking about how do you heal. How do you heal? How do you recover from a messed up, a broken relationship? How do you recover? How do you regain your self-worth? How would you tend to recover from an abuse that has so much dehumanized you, an abuse that has so much put you in such bad shape, in such bad light, that you begin to think less of yourself. And we said, number one, you've got to speak up. The first step is you've got to speak up. Number two, you've got to stop believing all the lies, all the emotional lies, all the lies that were told to make you feel less of yourself. You've got to stop believing all of that. Number three, you've got to start to reconnect yourself before the abuse. What was your life like before the abuse? You have to reconnect back to that moment where you were okay, you were vibrant, you were aspiring to become somebody, you are aspiring to become great, you are aspiring to have a decent and a fulfilling relationship. So you have to recover, you have to reconnect to that yourself. So you have to reconnect in order for you to develop your strength, your purpose, your identity. You have to know that you are not worthless. You are not useless. You are a great person whom God created by himself and sent into this world for a unique, distinct purpose. So no one should make you feel you are worthless. No one should make you feel you are useless. If anybody had hitherto made you feel that way, that's a big lie. That's a big lie. I'm telling you now that that's a big lie. So you've got to recover from that. You've got to get out of that cocoon. You've got to get out of that stage and begin to think more of yourself. Begin to think that God loves you. Begins to say to yourself, look yourself in the mirror and say, no, this is not me. I am a wonderful person that God created and I'm going to amount to something. You've got to look in the mirror and say, I am very beautiful, I'm very handsome. You've got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, no, I can be productive, I can heal, I can have a decent relationship again, I can move on again. So by the time you put these things in place, you are on your way to full recovery. And once you start to recover, certainly new opportunities will come. New opportunities will come. What do you do when those opportunities come? Do you say to yourself, no, I have been dehumanized before. I can no longer give myself any chance to a relationship. No, not in this life anymore. Do you give up? We'll have that conversation shortly, but I want to mention this as part of your recovery plan. You've got to add value to yourself. Very important. You've got to add value to yourself. A lot of persons, when they find themselves in that kind of abusive atmosphere, abusive relationship, by the time they are out of that relationship, they most time feel they can't do anything again. But part of your recovery plan is you've got to add value to yourself. If you need to go back to school, you've got to do that. If you've got to learn a skill, you've got to do that. If you've got to get a job, you have to do that and get a job and start small, no matter how small. Get busy. Get busy. Because one thing I know an abuser will always do to their victim is to make them dependent and make them feel without them they cannot survive out there. But that's a lie. You can survive. You can amount to something. So you have to rise up. You have to shake up the dust and look at the sun in the morning and say to yourself, as long as the sun can rise up in the morning, I can still make it. I can still do it. So add value to yourself is very critical to recovery. You've got to add value to yourself. And then you've got to start to clean up yourself. A lot of persons, when they are being abused, they no longer take care of themselves because they see themselves as completely worthless, less of a human. So you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to start cleaning up again. You've got to start to dress very well again. You've got to look good again. So by the time you start all of this, and in all of this, you've got to also pray. I believe in prayers. I believe in the power of God to restore. I believe in the power of God to heal. So you've got to take all of these steps in prayers as well. Very important. Prayer is a very profound component of recovery, because sometimes it becomes humanly impossible to recover. But with God, all things are possible. So you've got to pray. You've got to seek help. You've got to ask someone to join you in prayers. But most importantly, I want to say this. While you are in the process of recovery and you are giving yourself another chance, this time around, you've got to be careful. This time around, you've got to be wise. You've got to be wise. At this stage, if before you had no boundaries in your life, you should begin to set boundaries. You should set boundaries. You should also as well learn how to say no. Sometimes when you need to say no, you've got to say no. You have to come to that stage where you can say no to someone, where you have to say no, not minding how that person feels, but your no should be your no. You don't say yes when you are supposed to say no. You only say yes when you are supposed to say yes, because you have learned. Once beaten, they say twice shy. So you should not find yourself in that kind of situation again. So from a start, as you begin to give yourself another chance, and then new opportunities for a relationship begins to show up, you've got to set boundaries from the very onset, from the very beginning. So you have to got to learn to say no when you should say no, and you should also know that you need to protect your peace. No one should take away your peace, and you shouldn't allow your peace to be taken away because you want to please someone. All right. And at that point, you don't have to tolerate disrespect. No, don't tolerate disrespect, but don't be disrespectful as well. Don't be disrespectful. What you would not tolerate, what you cannot tolerate, don't give up. I'm saying you should not tolerate disrespect, because abuse begins from disrespect that is being meted out to you, and you keep quiet, you keep silent. For whatever reason, you keep silent about disrespect. So you've got to know that you should not tolerate disrespect. But yourself, you've got to be responsible and be respectful. Okay. And then you have to ensure that you choose wisely and start an healthy relationship. You can when you give yourself a chance, you can make it work. Because this time around, from the very beginning, you should learn to set boundaries. You should learn to speak up when something is not okay. To speak up respectfully. Because if you show respect, you get respect. Ladies and gentlemen, as you go through your recovery process, setting boundaries is very important. Don't ignore that. When you begin to notice warning signs from your experience, don't ignore it. in the name of love. Don't ignore it for any reason. Make corrections appropriately, respectfully. Make adjustment. Get your partner to make adjustment. You can do that respectfully. Okay? And as long as you put these things in place, full recovery is possible. You can have a better life again. You can recover again. You can actually move on again. Okay? And let me say this. Do not, I want to personally advise you on this. Do not allow what people would say. Do not allow what the society, what your community will say to deprive you of happiness, to deprive you of giving yourself a chance to live again. Do not allow it. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live again. You deserve to have a better life again. So, from this moment, make up your mind. Start to speak up. Don't be silent. Don't be silent. Start to speak up from today, from this moment. Make up your mind. Start to speak up, seek help. Stop believing the lies. Stop believing the lies. Reconnect back with yourself. Find yourself back. You were once vibrant. You once had a dream. You once had a goal in life. Pick all of those up. Shake it up again. Dust them up. Add value to yourself. Begin to add value to yourself.